I will speak very briefly about sluice gates, and the focus is really on Kalyanis. How many of you have seen this? Or anything like it? These are two sluice gates at the Kempangudi Kere in Gavipuram. These were, of course, at one point used to regulate the water flowing from the Kempangudi Kere into the channels, which would then feed the agricultural lands. And as you can see, they're kind of marooned right now because the lake itself has shrunk, leaving these two gates high and dry. There are a couple of other such structures in the city. Madivara has one, and a few others even on the outskirts still exist. Some years ago, there was a lot of excitement because there was a sluice gate found in Hosekere Halli, which is in South Bangalore, and there was talk that it was a Chora period mandapa. It's not a Chora period mandapa, it's a sluice gate. Today, that gate has been lost once again. So this kind of infrastructure related to our water heritage is really neglected. We've been trying a very long time to restore these, but permissions are a problem. But the focus of my talk really is, I'm sorry, you can't see much of the map, is on some of the Kalyanis that we documented. More than 20 of them. When we started out, we thought, there'd be like 4 or 5. Maybe 6, maybe 10. And then people started saying, what about this one? What about that one? And then people in our team who were going and looking at these Kalyanis, they were also finding more and more. So we ended up doing a proper documentation of more than 20, and it's not even complete. There are several others that we could not access because they're a little difficult to get to because it's all slushy and stuff like that. And I'm sure there are a few others that we have just not been able to find yet. But these Kalyanis are of different kinds. Many of them, of course, are associated with temples, but not all. Some of them are standalone Kalyanis as well. So this is a list of some of them that we have documented. I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with the ones in Malleshwaram, maybe the one in Alsur. There are, of course, different kinds. I'll just speak a couple of minutes about those. So this is when you say Kalyani, this is the standard thing that comes to mind. There's a square water body with steps on all sides, and it can vary in size quite a bit. This particular one is a Kalyani which is in Devanahalli, very close to the Devanahalli fort, and there is an Anjaneya temple right next to it. This is again in Devanahalli, and here you can see actually? Okay. Here you can see the access is from one side, only from the steps leading down, about maybe 10 or so steps leading down into the Kalyani. It's a very small thing, about 4 meters by 4 meters or so. Very small, and actually it's been restored also recently. When we first saw it, you could barely see it because there was so much of garbage in it. This is another one which is in Vettadasanapura, which is near Begu. There is a temple called the Timmaraya Swami temple, and next to that is this Kalyani. Again, a slightly different pattern where you have steps all along the shorter side of it, and then you also have access through a small flight of steps on the longer side. So there's such a variety, even though we have only like 20 odd. In that itself, there are so many variations in their architecture, the way they've been built. This, how many of you have seen it? Yeah, this is like probably our most elaborate one in Malleshwaram. This is the Dakshinamukha Nandi Tirtha Kalyani in Malleshwaram. And I'm sure you all know how this was actually something that was added to the city's heritage scape because it was only rediscovered in 1997. And quite a nice, interesting structure. There is, again, it's got the square Kalyani with a colonnade all around, and you can access the steps, and you can see the turtles in the water as well. So as I said, we documented all of these. We drew up the plans, we got the sections, elevations, etc. This is one of the Kalyanis which was rediscovered a few years later, so around 15 years ago. This is another one that was rediscovered. This is the Kalyani in Alsur, very close to the Someshwara temple. How many of you have seen this? Okay, so the next time you go to the temple, it's kind of difficult, it's kind of easy to miss it because it's all locked and barred, and there is usually there's usually some stuff kept in front of it. So it's very, very, you just walk into the temple and not even realize that there's actually a Kalyani down the outside. This again, there was some time for which it was under litigation. I believe it has now been cleared up, and I'm hoping that the water body gets to be used a bit more than what it is now. So water body is like the previous one, the Kalyani that I showed you in Alsur. We don't have an exact date for it, but if you presume it's from roughly the time when the temple, the Someshwara temple was perhaps expanded, then we can say it's around 500 years ago. If you presume that it was from the time when the Someshwara temple was built, then you could say it's about, say, 800 or 900 years old. But there have been water bodies, Kalyanis added to the city much later as well. This one here is from 1898, and it was actually built by somebody in memory of his mother for a public purpose. And very difficult to get to. You can barely see what is left of it, but it's still there. Obviously not used as much anymore. There are also some Kalyanis, like this one. Again in Malleshwaram, this is actually in private property. So again, this was a bit of a discovery for us. I don't know how many others are hidden like this, but it's really nice. The families around it still use it for puja. They use it to immerse the idols and rituals and so on and so forth. So it's still very much used, and of course there are fish in it as well. So important from the point of view of water recharge. I'm sure that Vishwanath will speak all about this much more, but it's also important from the ecological point of view. So why? So I spoke about these, couple of them which were rediscovered. There are also new Kalyanis which are being built by the BBMP, and these are of course again for ritual purposes, particularly for immersion of the Ganesha idols. So there are a bunch of these which are built. Usually they're all the same square steps going down, and there are these in Sankitank, in Alsur, and Jaipur, and so on and so forth. So quite a few of those. In addition to, so these new ones have been built. We've also lost a few. This is one in Gotigire, near a Gali Anjaneya temple, and this has now been completely filled up, and you can't even make out that there was a Kalyani there. This is not very long ago, maybe 15, maybe 12 years ago or so, it was filled up. We're still hoping that we can restore it back. Let's see. So a lot of Kalyanis around the city have been restored by the BBMP and by others. This one is in the Champakadama Swami temple in Bannerghetta, and you can see it's still being used for ritual purposes. Very important there. This one on the left, you can see what the Kalyani was like before it was restored, and you can see how it is after restoration. This is in Chikkabanawara. This is another one that was restored in a different fashion. So this is the Sampakiram Kalyani as it was in the 80s and 90s, and you can see it was completely in disuse. And sometime, I don't have an exact year when, but sometime in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken, it was restored in a, well, it was actually adapted for different purposes. So though it's no longer a water body, it is still a really important public space that's being heavily used for, by children. There are also festivals that go on there. So it's a very nice public space, though of course no longer functioning as a water body. That's it for now. This is part of the team that worked on the documentation of the Kalyanis. As I said, I really hope that at least some more of these are restored. Thank you. So I will leave it to Vishwanath to take over from here.
Thanks. It's okay if I sit here, I can just operate it now and now. If at any point of time you have a question, please stop me there. So I'll just continue where Meera left off. Meera asked me to come and talk about Keres and Bavis. I didn't know how long and I didn't know what the audience was going to be like. So I put together something which is sort of relevant to what I think is the modern context of heritage, which is how do we get it to be functional so that it becomes much more of a chance for it not to be buried under the soil, but to be used in a productive fashion. So that's where I'm coming from. They call it Kere Bavi. Kere is the lake or the tank that we have, and Bavi is the well, which is the nomenclature that's used in the whole world. And does it have a functional future is the question that I asked. Because, you know, you have to begin World Heritage Day with a profound quote, so let's get the profound quote out of our way. We'll get one more in the end. And also it's very nice for me that geology is destiny in a large sense for us, because the landscape that we occupy is given to us by nature, which has worked on it for millions of years. And it starts with Pangea, with all the continents being together, and the continental drift, that's where it starts. And then you get to the Indo-Gangetic plain, right? So the continental drift then creates the Himalayas, 80 to 100 million years back, one of the youngest mountains in the world, which causes the monsoon, which is delayed extraordinarily in Bangalore. The monsoon will come on June 5th. That monsoon, those 4 months of rain is what we have to hold on to, and therefore the Keres and Bavis. Right? So it's the monsoon, it's geology, it's the Himalayas, which is doing the Kalyanis that we see in Bangalore, at one context. So it's very interesting also that not only did the Himalayas rise because of this geological activity in the Indian plate, went into the Asian plate or the Chinese plate, and the Himalayas started to rise, but actually a part of the Shivaliks and below the Shivaliks sank because of tectonic plate activity. And that sinking created that beautiful blue that you see, which is the sunk portion, which is the Indo-Gangetic plain, right, and the Indus plain, the Indo-Gangetic and Indus plain. And over millions of years, of course, the monsoon rains have brought down all the dirt and soil and built it up in layers, making it one of the most fecund places on Earth, right? So when you look at global population density, no wonder we are the world's most populated nation, right? And that's because of the agricultural fecundity of our land. And within that, it's the Indo-Gangetic basin, which is the most densely populated place on Earth. That's what we have. It's one of the most densely populated, because at points of time in history, you just have to split a seed and then it becomes a crop. That's the way it was. That's the way it was going. And so therefore, I'm just putting the national context before I dive down to Bangalore, is that geology is destiny. And you look at the land size and you look at the arable land size. Like arable land is a cultivable land in a particular nation. So though China and USA are 3 times as large as India, but in terms of cultivable land, India is almost on par with China and the USA. So we've got some of the most arable lands, best soils in the world, which has meant that our forests have been destroyed because those forests have been occupied for agricultural land. So that's also context that we have with us. And the monsoon is everything, as we are finding out in Bangalore. Without these 4 months of rain, we struggle. As the interviewer and his apartment and
I am Darshan, I am the curator here.
Yeah, Darshan recorded, the monsoon is everything, that we appreciate it when it's not there particularly. And rubberized classic photograph of what groundwater means to India. And I'd just like to bring this point out to you, that India is the world's largest user of groundwater. Part 9, we use 250 cubic kilometers of groundwater annually. USA and China together, which are number 2 and number 3, together do not use as much groundwater as India does. So we've been a groundwater civilization right from the Indus Valley times. Mohenjo-daro, every third house had a well. Dholavira had rainwater harvesting and wells. Piladi in the south in Tamil Nadu had wells. So it was the culture of the well. We call it the Indus Valley or the Indus River civilization, but it was actually a well culture, groundwater. So groundwater as a history now, landscape is more than 5,000 years old. And so when heritage comes, so this is addressing Kibadi, we look at preserving the heritage, the question is that the skeleton remains, the soul is gone. Right? And you don't notice that the soul is gone. So this great spot, good that we preserve this architecture great, but what happened to the water? And how do we make sure that the water comes back? That's the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Because only then truly is the heritage being preserved. If this is what it was designed for, it was made for, constructed for. And so the question to ask ourselves is, can the water come back? And one believes that with adequate hydrogeological interventions like recharge and a control on how much we extract, it's possible to bring back the waters. And I'll show you some examples of what that possibility means. For us itself, Lal Bagh is a classic example of 3,000 million year old rock, right, which you see every time you go to Lal Bagh. That's the history of this land, geologically speaking. And on that land and on that rock, which has weathered itself, have human beings constructed a water system, a hydrological system, to hold on to water of the 4 months of rain for the rest of the 8 months, for us to irrigate, for us to recharge into the ground, for drinking, for animals, right? That's the Kere. This is the Kere landscape of Bangalore, 3 major valleys, and right now about 186 Keres which remain. 210, out of which some are dry, 186 which have water or the potential for water. That's what we're left with, but these are in the 3 different valleys. The Koramangala, the Chalagatta Valley, the Vishwanath Valley, and the Valley. Okay? Each one of the Keres in each one of the valleys are different. In the Vishwanath Valley, the Keres will be small and deep. In the Dakshin Pinakini, which is the Koramangala, Chalagatta, and the valleys, the Keres will be shallow, wide, and large. Bengaluru, Rachenandi. You'll notice that they're shallow Keres, but wide Keres. Whereas in the Vishwanath Valley, they're smaller Keres, but bigger Keres. That's the nature of the hydrology and the hydrogeology that we have. And of course, Uday Kumar, thanks to the Mythic Society of Uday Kumar and the inscription stones which are being unearthed, we know that the history is 1,200 years old, at least. The history of the Keres predates Kempegowda. We credit Kempegowda for many of the Keres, but many Keres are predated by hundreds of years. So you see Bengaluru, you see Hebbar, you 1,100 year old, 1,200 year old. So it's a long history that the Keres have had. What is the Kere? It's just that the monsoon falls on the hills, water runs down, and you throw an earthen embankment across the valley. So all Keres of Bangalore are human-made, they're not natural, they're human-made, they're done by throwing an earthen berm across a valley, lining it with stone and holding on to the water. So all the Keres are above the ground, literally above the ground. Only a little bit of scooping of the earth is done to make the bind, or the kodi, right? So that's the nature of the beast. And this is the kodi, or the waste layer, or the overflow layer, which is the strongest point of the Kere, which needs to be the strongest point, because when the Kere fills up, this is where the overflows. And this is a sketch which I picked up, which shows the Kere itself. The Kere has what are called, those 3 lines that you see on the top are called Posha Kaluves in Kannada. Posha Kaluve or feeder channels. These feeder channels bring water from the catchment into the Kere. The Posha Kaluves are the lifeline of the Kere. Without the Posha Kaluves, there will be no water that comes into the Kere so easily, right? So Posha Kaluves are crucial. There is the kodi itself. The kodi is the urban one. There is the tubu, which Meera was referring to, which is the sluice gate. The tubu. The sluice gate opens up and irrigates the command area, or the Achkat as it is called, the command area of irrigation, the Achkat, through Rajakalways. The Rajakalways are actually, I'll show you, very small channels. You don't imagine them as gloriously large wide channels. Those large wide channels connecting one Kere to the other Kere is actually called a kodi kalwe, an overflow way or a kodi kalwe, right? So the components are Posha Kalways, the Kere itself, the kodi, the tubu, the overflow, the kodi kalwe, and the Raj kalwe. So let's show you how each one of them looks. So this is the kodi which overflows. Now this construct comes from negotiation between all the Keres upstream and downstream of one single Kere. It's not left to the village to hold on to all the waters that it wants to hold on to. It has to negotiate with the upstream how much water will come into it, and the downstream how much water will you release. Right? And so the rough rule of thumb for all the Keres of Karnataka and some in Tamil Nadu and Andhra is the water spread, the area of the water, is equal to the Achkat or the irrigated area. The command area, the Achkat, and the water spread are equal. Right? So if it's 30 hectares water spread, you have 30 hectares of irrigated area, usually paddy, that's the rule. That's the rule of thumb. You can see here that as part of the negotiation, the kodi has been lowered by 3 inches, because this is what the villages downstream have to do. And of course the fishes put their nets to make sure that when the kodi overflows, the fish are kept in. And around the Kere has developed the heritage of who manages the water, of the Neerugandis, who are the actual choosers. They would decide how much crops would be grown, how many crops would be grown, 1, 2, 3 crops, how many crops would be grown, what extent of cropping should be grown. And in the old days, they were part of the water distribution system. The farmer had to come and plant the paddy leave it to the new Gandhi, and they would say that the farmer comes the second time to harvest the paddy. The rest is left to the new Gandhi to do all the distribution of the water equally to every field. But this is not a glorious romantic culture. There was a social dynamics to it, which was one of aggression. Right? So we can't work that out. The Keres were feudal constructs. And now the big challenge for the Keres is that we're in a democracy. And so the biggest challenge is not of water or technicality, it's the governance mechanism which is causing problems for the Keres. How does a feudal artifact remain in a capitalistic democratic society? That's the biggest challenge. And of course, the float to Gangama, when the Puri overflow, there will be a celebration. When the carry overflow, there will be a celebration. Every family in the village had to contribute, and there will be generally a float put in to Gangama. And of course, the Keres in this part of the world grew paddy. So it's not that paddy is a water intensive crop and all that, and barley should be grown, because in the Achkat, in the command area, you cannot grow that. You can only grow paddy or sugarcane. Right? So water, which was ephemeral, was quickly converted to paddy, and the paddy would be stored for 3 years. So that's virtual water. And paddy is the best form of converting water to some grain, right? Even better than ragi. Though ragi needs less water, but in terms of surplus water which you want to convert to a crop, you best grow paddy. That's the nature of the beast. And of course, it generated most of the work in the fields done by grain. Right? So that's all part of the cultural heritage that we have. And this is not Bali, this is Kola, this is Murbagal Talu in the year of plenty of rain. Till you can see green fields in the rocks, and then when it's white and yellow in November, December, that's the golden paddy fields. So this is the heritage of water and paddy, which goes together for us. And of course, then the harvest, and then you see that the well is full, right? So in the command area, you would always have the water full in the well, so that once the tank waters were over, if you needed 1 or 2 more irrigations, you could put it up from the well and irrigate it. Right? So that was the role of the well as it came. And this well was very important, because when you take a slice of the earth, that's how it looks like. That's the rock. That's the Keres somewhere at the back, and that's the barley. Right? If the barley is being fed by the Keres, the water is seeped in and fed the aquifer, and it stored water for summertime. And that's how water seeps in. Typically 20, 30, at best 100 feet, this is the depth of the open well, of the barley. 100 feet is the maximum, sometimes unlined 100 feet. So people would dig to 100 feet till you hit hard rock. And at the interface of the soil and the hard rock, the water would stay and seep in into the well, and that's the well. The water is being tapped out. And in the rains, the well would be full. So these are cyclical years. 3 out of 10 years you would get good rains in Kolar, this part of the world. 3 out of 10 years usually, and that's when the Kere would be full, and that's when the barley would be full. 7 years you would not have the barley full. And of course there was an aesthetics to the barley, even though it was not a Kalyani full-fledged, but a barley in a private land. If the person could afford, this is dry stone masonry, not a gram of lime or cement is used. The stones are put together by a master mason, a Kalluwada from the community, who dress it and bring it and put it together, because water seeps in from the side, unlike the Indo-Gangetic plain, where water comes in from the bottom. Here, the water comes in from the side mostly, right? You saw the rock and the soil interface, that's where the water is coming in. So this is dry stone masonry, and therefore at every 8th stone or 10th stone, you would have inserts which were deeper. And all the steps which are cantilevered are also just put in there. And one of the ways it was done was that the master mason would come and take a hinging kaddi. Those who know Kannada know that this is the kaddi which was used for broomsticks long back. And he would break it, let's say at 8 inches, and put it on the ear of all the boys who had to fall the stone. Every boy on his ear had a hunching kaddi. He would measure the stone, and exact that stone size would have to be given to the master mason. And that's why you got perfect concentric rings of equal length, with equal size, right? And as many boys who are now old men will tell me that if the master mason came out from the well, it meant that somebody was to get a vacuum. So the boys would disappear onto the horizon and then wait, what is it? Why is that gentleman come up? That it's to drink water or to eat food. So there was this tradition or this culture of doing, because if you see some of the old wells, you don't see a better masonry. You can't get better masonry there. And of course, the Kere Bhavi together provided water security. So this village, for example, has the Jal Jeevan mission bringing piped water supply to the house, But when the pump breaks down or the borewell goes dry, this Bavi has never gone dry for 120 years. So all the families go to the Bavi and savorify it, as they say in Kannada, lift the water and use it for drinking and cooking. And even though the Kere may be dry for 2 years, the Bavi will still give you enough drinking water. So drinking water security was assured through the Kere Bavi synergy, right? And of course, if the Kere was a construct which was feudal, it was crucial that some water should be left for the grazing animals. So as a rule, the tubu or the sluice gate would be put at a level below which there would always be water for the rest of the year for the goats, sheep and cattle, and for wild animals and wild birds. So you would not take all the water from the Kere, you would always leave some for it. Water. And so this is how the Kosha Kalve looks to the left. That's the feeder channel. That's the Raj Kalve. You see, the Raj Kalve is not really big, and that's the Raj Kalve on the right, which is taking the water to the fields, right? And so it's very crucial in the Kere bit, in the rural areas when we decentrate, that we don't just think of the Kere itself. It's these Raj Kalves which distribute water to the fields which is most important. Even if there's less water in the Kere, you need to make sure that that water reaches every field. Only then will the command area come into cultivation. Many of the decentrate works that we take up now focuses on the tank, on the Kere itself, but not focus on the Kosha Kalves and the Raj Kalves. And that is something that we need to remind ourselves. And one thing to remind ourselves is that water in the Kere only benefits those who have land. If I have bigger chunk of land, the more benefit I get because I can grow 2 crops or 3 crops. But if I'm landless, what does water mean to me in a village? Nothing. So Keres can be creators of iniquity in a village unless the landless, especially from a caste class angle, are included as part of the benefits of water right from the beginning. Because remember, water was brought by the more powerful, and power determines who gets water, which means that it can create inequity. So this is a bigger challenge in a democratic construct. How do we bring equity, especially for the landless? And the way to do that is to organize around making sure that apart from the command area, that the groundwater is recharged and those who have lands outside the command area have some access to the water, equitable access to groundwater, that fishing rights in the Kere, for example, goes to women, self-help groups who are landless, that there is ensured water for goats and sheep because that's what the landless community generally own. That is a construct that we need to think of, not merely the restoration of a physical water body. We have to look at it from a social lens. It's called social hydrology. And the social hydrology lens is most crucial for managing water in present area. Out of social hydrology comes ecology and the environment too, right? So the byproduct of social hydrology, equitable water access, should be the environmental benefits that come from it. And of course, we are all creatures of water, and there's a famous writer called Vishwanath who actually said that the state is a construct of water. That what we call the state, the ruling class of the aristocracy or governments, came because water had to be managed. And Vishwanath writes this famous treatise, which is called Orient and Despotism, and says that the state or the bureaucracy that we create is created around water. And then the next step, technology also arises around water, and it arises around the well. So the first Archimedes principle, lifting levers or the pulley, right? So this is one argument that human beings are lazy. You want to lift water from a well, you want to do it the easiest way. You invent a rope, figure out how a rope is to be lifted from with a bucket, and that's damn heavy altogether already. So you think the stick becomes the pulley makes it possible for even a small child to lift the water. The pulley gets fitted to a bullock cart and becomes a mode of transportation. The pulley gets fitted to a horse cart, it becomes a war machine. The pulley gets fitted to the automobile and it becomes traffic jams in Bangalore. So the origin of the traffic jams in Bangalore is a well which had a pulley in it, right? So this is technology that is coming through. And the first pumps also were around this. Some of you may have seen it. This is the last Persian wheel in, there used to be Persian wheels in Indiranagar, where the golf courses. The last Persian wheel in Indiranagar died in '78. So we had these beautiful constructs there too. I'll show you around. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may have heard of it. The last of these are in Zimbabwe and Rajasthan. They're the ones that we. And so that's how it pulls up the water. That's how it pulls up the water, right? So technology is coming, the pulling comes, the Persian wheel. The Persian wheel is invented somewhere around what is now Sindh and Rajasthan. It's actually the Indian wheel. The British gave it the name Persian wheel. It's actually the Indian wheel. It's called the Aragatta. From the Aragatta comes the Rehet. The Rehet is what is called in northern India, it's Rate, which becomes the Rate, and then it becomes Bucket Kabile here in this part of the world, right? So we have several names which comes from that. And of course, the culture of the Kere is also done songs. So it's important that we realize that there are intangible heritages also with the artifact, which is the Kere and the Babi, right? And the songs themselves are generally also about mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. I won't go into that space there. It's not generally nice songs about the environment or about the good life. It's about the problems that they have on the field and at house and every other place too, right? But there's a singing to it. And some of the lakes that we worked on in Kolar, after 14 years the songs have come back, and after 14 years it's the older women who are teaching the younger women the songs too, right? So those are intangible heritage. I don't know whether we should lose them or not. The city becomes the biggest disruptor of Keres, right? And this is understood. And one of the things that I want to draw your attention to is in 76, 77, 78, in Mysore Kingdom, there was the biggest Shama of all times. If you read about the famine history of India, this was a famine which hit Western India and Southern India the most, and also parts of Central India. In the old Mysore Kingdom, 12.5 lakh people died. 1/4 of the population died of hunger and thirst. In Bangalore city, around 1 lakh people, 90,000 to 1 lakh people died in Bangalore. The glorious 1,000 Keres could not support a population of 1.8 lakhs. If you have 1 year of drought, the Keres can support you, the Babi can support you. If you have 2 years of drought, the Babis run out. And if you have 2.5 or 3 years of drought, the local water cannot support you anymore. So it's unnecessary to overtly romanticize the Kere as a solution for our water problems. They're crucial, they're needed for many reasons, not for drinking water requirements. This is the point that I make. If all the Keres of Bangalore were to be full, it would give us only 14 days of water supply. 1 4 days, if all of the Keres were full. So the Keres have a role in recharging groundwater, but it's a limited role. This is what we must recognize now. Therefore, the decision was taken in 1876, 77, 78 that no more deaths should occur due to shortage of water. Two things the government, the Mysore government, the Raja took up was the railway line, so that food could be brought during times of famine from areas where the food production is high, and water supply schemes like Hesagata, which was conceived and completed in 1896 to bring pipe water supply from a river to the city and make sure that we never ran out of water. And Hesagata did the purpose for 20, 30 years, then you have to go to Tripura and then to Kaveri. And who are the people who are digging the Keres and Babis? They are the Manuvata community or the Bovik community. They were itinerant groups. They've dug the Ganga Canal, the Yamuna Canal. They've moved from Rajasthan. They've moved all the way to Tamil Nadu. This community would go from place to place. The name Odisha may come from this community itself, old community as it is. It may be that. And these were the people of the earth. The Kaluvadas were the people of stone, the Manuvadas were the people of soil, and the digging of canals, channels, Keres, Kuntes, Babis was all the responsibility of this community in particular. And so now in Bangalore, what we're trying to do is to work with the community to dig 1 million wells, and the idea is to give them back a livelihood. And their job is to make sure that wells are dug to put rainwater back into the aquifer. Unlike in the past, when you took the water from the ground, now you want to recharge the aquifer. And is that a possibility so that they get a livelihood for 10 or 15 years? So they're learning that, and they're doing many such recharge wells, which are done with precast concrete rings. One question we had was, how do these wells look like? They're 3 feet in diameter and about 20 to 30 feet deep, made of precast concrete rings, unlike the stone ones. But there are also stone shallow aquifers like the Kalyanis, which Meera was showing. These are in gated communities and layouts. Now, if you spread the message enough, it's possible that these developers will protect the wells and protect the Kalyanis and make sure that they come back to life. Why should they do so? Because that Kalyani on the right, you pump for 36 hours, it gave 1.1 million liters of water. If you recharge the shallow aquifer, the Kalyanis and the Babis can give you precious water which is soft and sweet, unlike the deep borewell water which are salty and hard, right? So therefore, it's in the own interest of us as a society to protect the shallow aquifer, to protect the open wells, and to protect the Kalyanis. These are easily rechargeable and they give you functional water, and I'll give you the numbers also. And so these mud workers and cut workers are now picking up the skill of using mud and lime mortar and redoing the wells where people are interested and making sure that these wells are protected, as you can see here. So for the first time that I know of, the Kalyanis and the mud worker community together came to restore a well, right? To do that with mud and lime. And of course, the kere is also the construct of the fishers. The kere belong to the fishers as much as it's built to the agriculturists, right? And so the fishers have to be included as part of the maintenance of the kere, because once they maintain it, they will not only does the community get fish, but the fishers take care of the water hyacinth and other things in the kere and keep it alive, right? If you get it from back. And of course, when the kere is kept, the modern construct of the kere imagination in Bangalore is of a bird biodiversity hotspot. Why is that? Because it was the bird watchers who first reported that the keres of Bangalore were under threat, and it was the Bird Watching Society which caused the Lakshman Rao Committee, one of the first committees in Bangalore, to be formed. And so the bird watchers have had a tremendous influence on the protection of keres. And so what has happened is in Bangalore, keres are seen from a bird watcher lens as much as it is seen from a water lens, which is the way it is that Bangalore has such wonderful bird watchers who do this. And so they're very happy with the painted stocks and the pelicans coming in, I'm sure. But when the kere is restored, the Bavi is restored. So this is Jakku Lake and the Bavi gets back water. So the kere of Jakku recharges 7.5 to 8 million liters a day, which goes into the ground and comes back in the Bavis, which can be treated and used as drinking water. 8 million liters a day from one kere. So what is the new imagination that the city has? And this is work in progress. This is the second largest project of its kind in the world after Mexico City, where treated wastewater in Bangalore. There are 34 wastewater treatment locations. There will be 59 sewage treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants in Bangalore, treating the equivalent of 2,000 million liters per day by the end of this year, or probably by the start of the next year. 2,000 million liters per day. Imagine 2,000 million liters of treated wastewater, if used productively to fill lakes, it would transform the waterscape and the landscape. And this is already begun. So what we're doing is, this is how a sewage treatment plant looks like. Thanks to the National Green Tribunal, you have to now treat it to really high standards, BOD less than 10 and so on and so forth. Actually, in some of the sewage treatment plants are bigger places, you can drink the water from the escape. Drink, not drink and die, but drink and live. It meets the IS 10500 quality norms, right? Jakku, Kaban Park, or P Valley. That's the standard they're getting to. We need to push the institution to be able to do that, because then that's a great benefit. This water is then pumped into the neighboring drought-prone districts of Kolar, Chikbalapur, to fill 147 lakes in Kolar, 64 lakes in Chikbalapur, Anikal another 60 lakes, Ramnagaram, and so on and so forth, right? So what happens is, this is how the lakes receive treated water from Bangalore. The keres now have a new role of being filled with treated wastewater. And now, the kere will not have water for 3 months in a year, it will have it 365 days a year, and 366 every leap year. What a profound statement. Yeah, and I want to talk about one such lake that we have worked on from BioTrust and with the help of the Town Municipal Council of Devnadi. This is North Bangalore, where the lakes are being filled by the Minor Irrigation Department, or the HM Valley project. The big keres which are being filled there, of which one of the keres is that one with the 0085 name and the 3030. That's called Sihinir Kere in Devnadi. Sihinir Kere meaning sweet water lake. Used to be the traditional water source. Devnadi Fort 1501, the Sihinir Kere is 1501. That was the water that was used for drinking purpose. You did a lithological study of the area, meaning you did a slice of the earth. What you figured out, and you can't see it there, I can see it here, is that about 100 feet of weathered rock. Then you hit hard rock. Typical way that you figure it out is when you drill a bore well, the extent to which a casing is put is called weathered rock. Weathered rock is a big sponge, it's a thick sponge which can hold water and release water. Weathered rock is where you dig wells till you hit hard rock, and then you get access to water. Otherwise, Devnadi town has 110 deep bore wells which goes to 1,400 feet. And the problem is that this water is extremely salty. It's got 2,000 TDS, which you can't use it for even washing your hair, because it's really salty, it's briny water. That's the nature of the soil at the bottom. So what do you do? That's Sihinir Kere, that's Devnadi Fort. Sometimes when you go there, you can see the old man is washing his feet, and behind him is the Kere, home dried for 14 years. That's how the Kere was revived by a group called Environmental Foundation for India, with the Town Municipal Council of Devnadi, and that's how the Kere looks now. If you go now, this is how the Kere looks. And this is a combination of treated wastewater from Bangalore and rainwater, right? This is Sihinir Kere. That's how the Bavi looked next to the Kere. The Bavi was full of garbage, trees were growing in it. The municipality was ready to put soil and cover it up, right? So luckily one of my colleagues was happening to be there, we stopped that, we cleaned it up. That's how the Bavi looks now. That's how it's being covered with the safety grill, and that's how full the water is. It gives you 2.5 lakh liters in a 12-hour pumping cycle and recuperates in the next 12 hours. That 2.5 lakh liters is potable water, sweet water with a TDS of 325 or 350, which means that you can treat it and supply it to them and it down as potable water. And that's what's being done. So this is one of India's first treated wastewater to drinking water project, the first, and that's the Kere and Bavi playing its role. In the modern context, right? So you protect the Kere because you want the water from the Kere. You protect the Bavi because this is sweet water. This is good quality water, unlike the borewell, which is deep quality water, right? And of course, Manwarders did the cleaning, and after the end of the work, they do if there's water in the Bavi, they dive in and have a swim. That's the finishing right of a Bavi, which is done well, right? So that you see Shankar and team having a swim in it, and the grids were put up. We did a bit of modern science. We drilled what are called filter borewells to supplement the Bavi. These are 100 feet deep borewells. We put a meter, including into the Bavi, to figure out how much water we are drawing from the ground, right? So that's the modernity that we need to put in. And this is the treatment unit. Treatment unit is a 130 micron disc filter for those who are technical, activated carbon filter, a UV sterilization, and an online chlorination. Exactly what you do in the swimming pool is what you do with this well. And then you're able to supply this drinking water. It meets IS 10500 drinking water norms, right? And this is the standard, so it's constantly checked by the Indian Institute of Science and by private laboratories to make sure that this water is potable at all points of time, right? That's the science that we're bringing in. And what you notice now is that the cost per kiloliter, 1,000 liters of water from an open well is 1 rupee 54 paisa. Drinking water, 1 rupee 54 paisa for 1,000 liters. The lesson we are learning, if you keep your Keres full and your Bavi is full, the aquifer coming up means your cost of water comes down dramatically, your energy requirement comes down dramatically, your carbon emission comes down dramatically. So what you're doing is you're creating climate resilient water because you're using treated wastewater, and you're using climate mitigating water because the carbon emissions per kiloliter of water is minimal. It's 0.1 units per 1,000 liters of water, right? So therefore, the Keres and Bavis are crucial for a sustainable living that we in Bangalore need, or we, the whole of India need. We need to get back to the Kere Bavi culture, but with modern science to understand the geology and the quality of treatment that we need to do for both our wastewater and the water treatment plant. And of course, there is the Cylindra. Some of you may know or not know. Cylindra is a structure. That's a water tank on the right, what you see. It's made out of granite, it's more than 500 years old. On the left is a granite slab, where if you had a head load on your head, and you were a traveler, you put the head load on that, had a sip of water, sat below a banyan tree or a neem tree or a peepal tree, rested for a while, ate whatever you had brought, put back the head load on your head and carried on. This was typical cylinders which you would do on pilgrimage routes, the way to temples, right? So the cylinders were there. They later on became KSRTC bus stands, because then you could get there and you rode the bus on top, right? But now that has gone, because now we've got AC buses and all sorts of buses, so the cylinder is also disappearing. This one, unfortunately, right in front of our eyes in Germany was knocked down. So we tried to pick it up and put it back all together again. We forget heritage and history damn quickly. This is Kavan Park, which is the Karga Bavi. The Karga was on 2 days back. The Karga makes its start from Sambhavi Kere and makes a pit stop at Karga Bavi. The Bavi is in Kavan Park, and that's being redone. We're trying to make sure that good quality water comes back, because there's some contamination of the water there, so that the tradition of the Karga continues. And this in the north of Bangalore, fascinating constructs. The wells have come back to life, and people are, the town municipal council is using it, as well as people are using it, and communities are using it. So this pump, for example, has the community putting in pipes and taking it to there. These wells are full because a lake upstream is full. This is how it looks like. This well, for example, on the way to the airport, just off the road, has given 70 million liters of water so far in this year. Still has some water. It's going down because there's been no rain, but still gives you water, 70 million liters or so. And this is the most fascinating of all. 3 wells, the women said, don't put a motor. Don't put a pump. If you put a pump, the water will go to the apartments, the well will dry, you won't have water. We pay 5 rupees for 20 liters of RO water. We need 4 vindigates of water. If all of us go to the well, we'll only draw 4 vindigates. The well will continue to have water, and we know the quality of water in the well, and we'll have it. Demand management. Something which women and the community itself done. Now, the question is whether it's drudgery or it's a democratic decision. This well continues to have water, 8-10 feet of water, even now in peak summer, and the women go to the well and draw the water. So this is the kind of community asset that we need to create, also in supplement to the pipe water supply that we do through taps, right? Because we've forgotten, we've created every form of water is a privatized asset, as an individual asset. Water is no longer a community asset. It's a private asset. When you see the border, it's a private asset. When you buy a bottled water, it's a private asset. When you buy an artificial, it's a private asset. How do we treat water also as a community asset? Is a question this when, for example, in Tunkuru, when it was filled with rainwater, the school children realized how to simplify a body. When the pipe water supply broke down for 10 days, the busy Uttar 30 days they had to wash, they could do so from the well by lifting it and then doing it. So this is the literacy that we need to work around to make sure that children realize the scarcity value of rain, the nature of groundwater, and how we should put in effort value water and clean it continuously. This one near the Kantiva Stadium, not Kantiva Stadium, this is Kantiva Studios, right? This well, which was cleaned up just 2 weeks back or 3 weeks back, gives 1 lakh liters a day, serving 700 families. Just next to Rajkumar Studio, close by, right? And this is the Murkoda Bavi. This is in Sampagi Ramnagar, just below something around Kere. This has been cleaned up, 3 taps, the well. People come and take the water, and good clean water, and they use it. This is a really old well. So I'll stop here by bringing out what we need as an approach to Keres and Bavis, and that is this as a community asset. And in the community asset part of things is Elinor Ostrom's rules, which says think about institutions. Which are the institutions to manage it? Post-social change is problem solving. Embrace diversity, every well is different, every kere is different, but within that be specific. Once you figure out a well or a bami, you'll be specific as to what the solution is. Listen to people. When we listen to the women, they said don't put a motor. Put a pulley, put a rope, and we will simplify it, right? Self-government is possible. Community can take care of the asset if they own it. Everything changes. This is a dynamic world, and the city is dynamic. Map power, that's where water goes. Water goes where power goes. Collective ownership can work. Human beings are part of nature too. So when you redesign a kere, you design it for birds, you design it for livelihoods for fisher, then you design it for functionality. That's when it comes back to the bavi and then you use water. So make sure that livelihoods and ecology are part of the solution to design. It's not just water in a pipe. When we design water in a pipe, we don't think of livelihoods, we don't think of ecology and environment. The best designs are which include social livelihoods and which include environment and ecology. All institutions are constructed, so we need to construct them and develop an FCS thing. And complexity does not mean chaos. What it means is that we need to engage with complexity, try to simplify it, but understand that life is complex and that some things will work, some things won't work. And that we constantly nudging better behavior. So you have to have a stake in the game. It's like bringing up your dog or your child or your garden. There is no shortcut. You are invested for life. Right? So you've got to do that. And if you do that with all the assets that we create as community assets, the Kere and Bavi will come back to life and we'll have a heritage which is functional and useful to us in the need of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight, and I think it has opened up different perspectives to think about, and also a very humble and kind request people who come from outside Bangalore, because it's difficult to analyze, realize, to connect what is heritage. And people localites, I request them, people who come from outside, try to give them a hint or connect them to the heritage. Until people don't connect to the local heritage, it is not possible. So we Bangaloreans, we have seen how Bangalore has come up, how it has changed. Until you don't connect, you don't know the source of water, where it is coming from. You don't know the lake existed here. You don't know how beautiful Bangalore was and how you are contributing. And I had a lot of discussions with people who came from outside. They don't bother. When I have an argument, they ask me, okay, where was your father from? Where was your grandfather from? How do you say Bangalore is yours? It is not yours. So it is mine as well as yours. I said, be part of the heritage, try to learn the language because that's the window or the door for the heritage. And try to know the place and try to respect the place because this is what we build for the next generation. Very, very important. And finally, thank you. I think it was a very educative and very significant and a very nice, talk what we had on this day for the Heritage Day, what we have celebrated. It is not only water, but in the art community, Samo, Suresh, and many other people who are also looking at the heritage of the seed. You know, you have vegetables, what is local, how it was grown, how it was stored, how it has been restored. There are a lot of research which is happening, and how it is connected, how a local community can focus on different varieties of vegetables, you know, greeneries, eateries. It is well connected with the community. You can visit, you know, his farm also, which is again a revolutionary kind of thinking and connecting to the heritage and place, and being very conscious about what we are doing, where is the source, how we are storing it, how we are using it, how consciously we are being the humans. So thank you. I request, you know, we have a small token from the NGMA. It's from our own